Are you ready to transform your wounds to your wisdom to your superpowers, so that you can truly transform your pain to your power and your power to passionate purpose? I am Schamet Horsfield, Wounds to Wisdom Oracle and Coach, and I will be your guide upon your journey of transforming wounds to wisdom, so you can truly manifest a life of your wildest dreams. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I am Schamet Horsfield, Wounds to Wisdom Oracle and Coach, and I am coming on here today to actually talk about what is an emotional spiritual wound and what does it mean to transform your wounds to your wisdom and your wisdom to your superpowers. This has been my business tagline for years and years and years, and it is the work that I do with clients. It's the work that I do with clients because it is the work that I have done personally in my transformation journey. You know, we know what a wound is when we fall down and we hurt our knee and it's bleeding, and we say, "Mom, can I have a bandage?" And she puts the antiseptic on there, a bandage on there. The wound heals. There may be a scar, depending on how bad the wound was, but we heal. And it is a very simple, straightforward understanding of what a physical wound is. However, the emotional wounds and the spiritual wounds are not so easy to understand or to see. And we're starting to understand more and more about the effects of trauma and the effects of unresolved childhood trauma in our adult lives. What is a wound? A wound is the way that we react, believe, the story that we make up about what happened to us. The emotional, spiritual wounds are almost, if you can imagine, this physical wound that never healed properly. And instead, every time we get a trigger, every time something reminds us of that time, we can open up the wound again, and then it is festering. And when we're in a triggered state and we're not regulated, then it's really, really difficult to be in a place of healing and a place of wisdom and a place of empowerment. So I've got a little bit of information here to read. We cannot heal what we do not feel. When we can truly heal the pain of our wounds and allow them to be our ally, our teacher, and friend, we can receive the medicine and wisdom from our wounds and begin our healing journey toward wholeness and wisdom. And this is from my Wounds to Wisdom Oracle deck that is getting ready to go to print next week. So it's so exciting. And this is really going to be such an amazing emotional, spiritual wisdom teaching tool, guidebook, and oracle deck to help you navigate your path of transforming your wounds to your wisdom and your wisdom to your superpowers. And so I want to just, keep diving into this conversation. The wounds that we can see and we can understand, we as a culture seem to hold a lot more room and understanding for it. But the ones that we can't see and understand as much, like the wounds from trauma. So I want to kind of speak into that on a deeper level. First of all, trauma is something that happens to you, but the emotional and the spiritual wound is what we carry from that trauma. These wounds, in a lot of ways, are not acknowledged. They're not understood. Sometimes we just think, well, what is wrong with this person? Why are they acting like that? Like, why are they so angry? Why are they so detached? Why are they,
enraged, or why are they so triggered all the time, and like what's going on? But then you have to ask yourself not what's wrong with that person, but what happened to this person. And this is a new book that Oprah's just come out with, and I just watched her podcast on it yesterday, and I was like, oh, that resonates with me so much. I was just like, oh, those times where somebody triggers us and we go, what is wrong with that person? How can they be like that? And then you got to ask yourself, what happened to that person? And that just changes everything. It changes everything for me, because immediately I reconnect to my compassion, to my love, my empathy, my understanding of like, oh, what happened? And we can hold that for ourselves too. When we are in a place where our wounds that were unresolved from our childhood, maybe we didn't get the love that we needed from our mom or our dad, maybe we were neglected, maybe we were abused. Whatever your story is, that first 7 years of childhood development, I just took childhood development. I got an A. I loved it. It was so intense. There were moments where I cried and cried and cried and went, I didn't get what I needed in those 7 years. That is the wound, right? We all have them, whether it's the mother wound, the father wound, the sister, the brother wound. There are so many different wounds. And my book that I'm writing right now goes into all the different wounds and why we have them and what and how we can heal from them. So, what is a wound? A wound is the way that we react, believe, the story that we make up about what happened to us. For example, I'm going to use one from my own personal wounding story here, okay? If you were betrayed, betrayal wound. If you are holding that energetic betrayal wound, then you believe and see through the trauma lens of betrayal, whether you realize it or not. And you can apply this to all the different emotional, spiritual wounds. So then you carry that resonance going forward in your life without realizing it, and it affects everything. It affects your relationships, your romantic relationships, your professional relationships, you name it. That is always going to be there. You're always going to be on guard, fearful of when the next betrayal is coming from until you clear it. Once you clear it and you reset and rewrite your own personal healing story, and I do really recommend working with a therapist, a coach, a healer, someone that you trust and you feel confident in being vulnerable with. That's a really big piece of it. And a lot of the healing actually comes from being seen. When you can be seen for your true self, for your authentic self, and be held in the vibration of who you really are, your divine essence, your authentic self that in a way hides behind these wounds that become coping mechanisms to protect you. So if you have been betrayed, then you have developed a coping mechanism around you to protect you from being betrayed again. So you will always be a bit careful, a bit timid, a little bit on guard, or a lot on guard of being betrayed. And you may even see through that trauma lens that you are being betrayed when you're not being betrayed. And so you see how these wounds can really affect every aspect of your life. Now, not to sound too like dark and bleak and don't want to get lost in the shadowlands of the wounds, but it is very important because you cannot heal what you do not feel. You cannot heal what you do not understand. So once you start understanding why you are the way you are, why you have the beliefs that you have, why you have the perception that you have, then you can start unraveling and unwinding all these wounds and pull apart what is really happening and what is the perception that you are holding because of the wounds of your past. And so now, I'm not going to talk too much more about the wounds because I think you get the gist of it. Like, they are the parts of us that are not healed. They are the parts that keep getting re-triggered and they fester. And, you know, when a wound has truly healed, some of them you always have a scar. And if you have that scar, then, you know, you have to take a little bit more care of it than you normally would. However, if you've truly, truly healed that wound, then it turns into your wisdom. We don't get the wisdom by you sitting on an island drinking a pina colada. Like, the wisdom comes through hard times. The wisdom comes through the challenges, the adversities, the challenges. You know, that is when we develop and cultivate wisdom. We cannot have empathy and understanding of how bad it is for someone else if we ourselves have not been through something similar. Now, there are people that have a lot of compassion and understanding and they haven't had trauma. I do understand that. However, I will speak into the fact that when you have been abused or you have had some sort of trauma or you have been, you know, for example, if you are a counselor for drug addicts and alcoholics and you yourself have been an alcoholic or a drug addict, you are going to understand firsthand how that person feels. And you are going to make a very, very good counselor because you've been there. And the wisdom that you've cultivated through your pain has become your power. And through that power, you are so passionate about helping others. And so this is where the superpower blooms like a flower, like a lotus flower up through the murky swamp, because you develop such a superpower of resilience, of strength, of compassion and empathy, understanding. You know, and this is another reason why I love Oprah so much. You know, she has cultivated her wisdom and her superpowers through what she went through. I mean, that goddess has certainly turned her wounds into her wisdom and her trauma into her wisdom, and that has become her superpower. And now she has a platform for so many healers and therapists and psychologists and people that are here to raise the frequency and vibration of the planet, are here to awaken consciousness. And oh, I love that. That's what I'm all about. So I'm going to read a little bit more of my wounds to wisdom to you. So some of the triggers can be loss, death, grief, change, violence, and trauma. And the wisdom here is you are invited to understand that your pain and suffering can serve you as a pathway to wisdom. And the life lessons you are experiencing can serve you in your soul's evolution. When you can understand that everything has been working for you, not against you, then you will see that within every trigger is a treasure, and in every wound there is wisdom. And I love that. I wrote that. And let's see, one more thing I'm going to read. Oh, the healing message. You are ready. You are ready. And you, if you're still listening to me, you're definitely ready. It takes courage to be ready and begin the wound healing journey. Your emotional pain will begin to transform into personal power and passionate purpose. A diamond begins as coal and transforms into a diamond because of the incredible pressure and stress it experiences. Without the grit of our life, there would be no pearls. Your struggles can become your strengths. Your emotional wounds do not define you. You get to choose what defines you. And this is the wisdom and the superpower aspect again, is you can change the story of your life. You can change that story from the victim to the victor, rewriting your story. And when I say that, I had a girlfriend, she says, oh, well, you got to be careful. People just start rewriting their story and not telling the truth. I mean, telling the truth. I don't mean just like making up some false story, but to rewrite your story in that, oh, I'm broken. Here's one. I'm broken. I've got all these childhood issues. You know, I can't trust people. I've been betrayed. I'm always on guard. Yeah, I just, this is I'm probably damned if I do and damned if I don't. And that becomes your story, but then that becomes your reality because our beliefs and our stories are the alphabet to manifesting our reality. So then you begin to recreate based on those wounds. And I actually made a quiz. I'll have the link below on what wounds are preventing you from manifesting your most abundant life. So take that quiz. I also am offering a free little guidebook. It's just a mini little appetizer until my book comes out. But definitely download that. And that's got 3 wounds that could be holding you back from manifesting your most abundant life. And so, it really is these wounds that can define us, or it can be the wisdom that defines us. And even better, the superpowers that define us. And it begins with the wisdom. So the grit in the pearl, I love that. That without the grit, we would have no pearl. And the pearl is the wisdom, right? And then the other symbolic thing is the sword. You temper the sword, you beat that sword until it's strong and it's sharp. And that is me. I have gone through so much that it has cultivated a resilience inside of me that has made me unstoppable. Like I literally do not give up. I am one of the most persistent people that I know, to the point that when I was a young person, I was 17 years old and a job came up, Club Cal Fit in California, fitness gym. I rang that woman. She said, no, we're not hiring. I rang her next week. No, we're not hiring. I kept ringing her. Finally, after I think it was the 4th time, she says, oh my God, you're just going to keep ringing me, aren't you? You're the most persistent person I've ever met. Go ahead, come on in. I want to meet you. And she met me. She ended up loving me. I ended up running the whole gym. I ran that whole gym, worked there full time, and and bought myself a brand new car at 18 years old. And I opened it up every morning at 5 a.m. I worked my way up the ladder at that place, and it was just such an incredible job running a health gym in California. Like it was fantastic, perfect job at 17 years old. It was fantastic. But I got that job because of my resilience, being persistence, and that is definitely a superpower of mine. I do not give up. And those that know me know that to be true. All right. We are all diamonds in the rough. And when you let the light shine through, you will again sparkle bright like you did when you were a child. This is your birthright. And so, I just love this. This is the Wounds to Wisdom Oracle deck. And I'm so proud of myself because I've just finished it. And I'm accepting pre-orders. So if you want to pre-order it, you get a Wounds to Wisdom Oracle reading, $130 value with the pre-order. So get in quick. The link will be below. But I hope you've enjoyed this kind of deeper dive into, we didn't even really talk about spiritual wounds. That will have to be another episode. But this was more emotional wounds and how they affect us. Going to be having an amazing speaker on the podcast that goes deeper into the spiritual aspect of our spiritual wounds, as well as many incredible people coming onto the podcast, sharing their wounds to wisdom to superpower stories. And hope you enjoyed this deeper dive into what is a wound and how do we transform our wounds to our wisdom and our wisdom to our superpowers. I am Schamet Horsfield, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed day. Again, there'll be a link below with a opportunity to get my free Wounds to Wisdom guidebook. What is standing in our way and preventing us from manifesting a life of our wildest dreams. And there's a Wounds to Wisdom quiz that I created to find out what wound, what's your major wound, the number one wound that is blocking you from manifesting your most abundant life. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Sending you all so much love. And I'm sorry I haven't come on here sooner, but I have actually been really sad about California. But thank you to all of you that did the rain dance with me that week, because we all did a rain dance and we all met up and we did our water ceremony. And on that day, it rained in Wellington and it rained in California. And I'm feeling a lot more hopeful. I felt like a lot of my own personal power came back, and realizing how much of a difference we can make when we all put our energy and our power into conscious creation. Sending you all so much love and so much wisdom on your transforming your wounds to wisdom and wisdom into superpowers journey. Namaste.